Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this, the Hayati, for inviting me to allow me to participate in your gathering. So, because I wasn't given a specific topic to talk about, I thought I might talk a little bit about the background of the Islamic movement, activities of my father, and the situation that we are having now.
صحبتاشون در خصوص در واقع زمینه‌های پیدایش و شکل‌گیری جنبش مقاومت اسلامی نیجریه شروع می‌کنن و اینکه حالا وضعیتش به چه صورت هست.
So basically, right from the beginning, from the inception of the Islamic movement, which is practically something that started as activities by my father and a few other students within university when they were in school.
جنبش مقاومت نیجریه در واقع با فعالیت‌هایی که پدر ایشون و جمعی از یاران پیروانشون مثلا در دوره دانشجویی یا بگیم در دوران طلبگی آغاز شده بوده شکل گرفته. ریشه‌هاش برمیگرده به فعالیت‌های اون.
So there was a presence of active Islamic activity of sorts within various institutions within universities and schools. And at the
فعالیت‌های اسلامی که در زمان دانشجوییشون در دانشگاه‌های مختلف بوده این فعالیت‌ها از قبل وجود داشته.
Sadly, it wasn't a very popular thing to be identified with, as since post-colonization of Nigeria, since the independence, people tend to sort of think that religious activities are sort of backwards. They were almost like an identifier of like you're backward or not really civilized.
در نیجریه دوران پس از استعمار جنبش‌های مذهبی به طور خاص خیلی با استقبال روبرو نمی‌شد، چون نگاه مردم این بود که در واقع یه جور گام رو به عقب محسوب میشه و خیلی استقبال نمی‌کردن از فعالیت‌های حالا اسلامی حتی.
And oftentimes when people would be active in Islamic activities, it would be restricted to things like, speaking about praying or anything spiritual, but nothing really social or political.
فعالیت‌های اسلامی که داشتن معمولاً محدود می‌شده به مسائل مذهبی مثل در زمینه نماز خوندن و حالا اعمال عبادی و مسائل اجتماعی و فرهنگی خیلی نبوده.
Even talking about just spirituality was sort of really seen as backward, to the extent that actually, even though we have a history of an Islamic society and everything, my mom always told me that when you would wear a scarf, and just a scarf, and we're not talking about like, wearing a long dress or even loose stuff or anything, just covering your hair, you would be shouted at and things like that, especially within academic environments, would be called, fanatic or something like that.
اینقدر نگاه نسبت به مسائل مذهبی منفی بوده و اینقدر که حتی در مورد معنویت هم نمیتونستن صحبت بکنن. این مسائل معنوی هم نگاه منفی بهش بوده. حتی مادرشون میگه که زمانی که یک روسری میپوشیدی، نه حتی یک چادر و یا حجاب خاصی باشه، فقط در حد یک روسری، مردم رو نشانه تحجر و عقب موندگی میدونستن و برخورد بدی باهاش داشتن.
Sadly, it was a time when communism was very popular, and even the people that weren't really into communism were into capitalistic type views, and religion was genuinely not at all the sort of what was seen as progressive or anything close to that.
به خاطر نگاه‌هایی که بود، چون کمونیسم اونجا حاکم بوده، به خاطر نگاه‌های حاکم خیلی نسبت به مسائل مذهبی و کلاً مذهب خیلی نگاه مثبتی وجود نداشته و اون رو هم نشونه تحجر می‌دونستن.
So when my father started his activities within the Muslim Student Society and university, he always had sort of thought, growing up from a religious home, because our family was historically a religious home. His father is a scholar, his grandfather, and it keeps going on backward pretty much. Even though they also weren't like particularly people who were revolutionaries, but at the same time we do have a history of a political type of view of Islam, and Islam as a system for governance and Islam as a pretty much system for all social aspects. Because we have no, not just in Nigeria, in the region, in Nigeria and other parts of Africa within the area, West Africa.
میگن پدرشون حالا به خاطر توی خانواده مذهبی بودن، پدر اجدادشون هم این دغدغه‌های مذهبی رو داشتن و خب این دغدغه‌های مذهبی باعث می‌شده که پدرشون هم درگیر فعالیت‌های مذهبی باشن و در انجمن اسلامی دانشجویان که هست فعال باشن و حتی نگاه اسلام سیاسی و پذیرش اسلام سیاسی و اینکه حالا اسلام به عنوان در واقع شکلی از حکومت باشه در منطقه زندگیشون، حالا منطقه نیجریه وجود داره و این نگاه هست.
And so he had always been a person who thought that we sort of, as a form of like being anti-colonialist, anti-imperialist sort of, he'd always thought that it's something important that we have to go back to our roots, considering that just about 200 plus years ago we have had an actual Islamic revolution in well, the region in West Africa, not what's Nigeria today, because Nigeria was created by the British. So basically in the region of what consists of Nigeria, Niger, and other countries around those regions.
What was in the country in the region?
Around West Africa, basically.
Okay, what was there kind of political system that they?
Yes, we had an Islamic government prior to that, and we had an actual Islamic revolution. We had an Islamic sort of system, but it was a traditional system where the kings were Muslims, and then later on, we had an Islamic revolutionary by the name of Sheikh Usman bin Fodio, who sort of challenged that and insisted that we had to have an Islamic system governing everything, basically economically and everything else.
چند قرن پیش اگر به تاریخچه در واقع قاره آفریقا نگاه بشه در کشور نیجری و کشورهایی که در شاخه آفریقا وجود دارن، این نگاه به اینکه اسلام به عنوان سیستم حکومتی باشه وجود داشته و حتی در واقع حکومت‌های اسلامی و سیستم‌های در واقع حکومتی اسلامی در این منطقه بوده. شیخ زکزاکی که به خاطر نگاه ضد امپریالیستی و ضد استعماریتی که داشته تاکید داشته که ما باید به ریشه‌های خودمون برگردیم و در واقع اون سیستم رو احیا بکنیم.
Prior to the Islamic revolution here in Iran, they looked to pretty much whatever Islamic revolutionaries they could find to sort of as a sort of inspiration. For example, I know that one of the books that inspired my father was, Milestones by Sayyid Qutb of Egypt, and other books by Hassan al-Banna, people like that who were sort of Islamic revolutionaries of that time.
قبل از اینکه انقلاب اسلامی در ایران شکل بده، پدرشون در واقع دنبال می‌کردن به نوعی جنبش‌های اسلامی و تفکرات اسلامی رو و تحت تاثیر در واقع اندیشه‌های سید قطب و یا حسن البنا بودند.
So when the Islamic, well, basically around the time when Imam was sent to exile and everything, that was pretty much around the time when more and more people, especially in Nigeria, people were knowing about who is this Imam Khomeini and things like that. And my father says that's around the time when he actually knew of his existence, and that's when he became curious about what Imam was doing. And so
زمانی که امام تبعید میشن زمانی بوده که کم کم امام شناخته میشه به اینکه حالا این رهبری که در واقع داره اقداماتی انجام میده چه کسی هست. شیخ هم در همون زمان در واقع از وجود امام مطلع میشه و خودشون گفته که کم کم در اون زمان بوده که با اندیشه های امام و افکار امام داشته آشنایی پیدا میکرده.
So when the Islamic revolution of Iran became successful, basically looking to any other Islamic revolutionaries, looking at Imam's movement becoming successful, it became pretty much like a beacon of hope, something that indicated that this is something that is actually possible, because even though they thought they had to pursue something in that line, genuinely speaking, most of the people, like my father and any other person that adhered to his sort of views, they just thought they had to still do it. At least they will have some type of excuse if they were to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then hereafter.
So you mean that it was a kind of model for them that they did in practice? میگن زمانی که انقلاب به پیروزی رسید در واقع یک امیدی در دل این افرادی که نگاهشون به اسلام به عنوان در واقع یک شیوهی برای حکمرانی و اسلام سیاسی مثبت بوده، امید رو در دل اینها ایجاد کرد. یک الگویی برای اینها بوده که اون اندیشه‌هایی که در سر و در ذهن داشتن رو در واقع ببینن که به منصه ظهور رسیده و بتونن ازش الهام و الگو بگیرن.
So coming to Iran about a year after the revolution and witnessing a lot of things and how how successful the whole endeavor was and everything, and meeting with Imam and everything, did give my dad an even stronger sort of sense of certainty that this is actually something that will work. And also that was, I mean, looking at Imam's life and everything, that was his introduction to the school of Ahl Bayt.
زمانی که یک سال پس از اینکه انقلاب به پیروزی رسیده، شیخ به ایران سفر میکنه و با امام دیدار میکنه و با اندیشه های ایشون آشنا میشه و در واقع به این اطمینان میرسه که این همون مدلی هست که مطلوبشون هست و این مدلی هست که برای حالا کشور و برای جامعه اسلامی جواب میده.
So when he went back to Nigeria, actually, because at the time he was the I think vice president international committee of the student organization for Nigeria's universities. Yes.
در اون زمان در واقع میشه بگیم که جانشین دبیر انجمن اسلامی مسلمانان نیجریه بوده شیخ.
So they normally have these vocational courses that they have they have the regional ones and then they have the national one, which pretty much all the students from different universities and everything will come about once a year or so.
هر ساله در سطح حالا هم ملی هم منطقه‌ای همایش‌هایی برگزار می‌شده که دانشجویان مسلمان دور هم دیگه جمع می‌شدن.
So that year in 1981, I think, or 1980, I'm not sure, when they had that national program, that IVC, he had to speak at the program, and when he decided to speak, he pretty much made up his mind to make a declaration to say that from that day forward, he would no longer follow the system that our country is built on, and would strive to build basically a better system, something that is based on Allah's commandments.
در تقریبا همون سال که تخمین می‌زنن سال 1980 یا 81 بوده، در واقع این همایش ملی که برگزار میشه، شیخ تصمیم میگیره که و اعلام میکنه که با این سیستمی که حاکم هست در کشورشون کاملا مخالف هست و اینکه در واقع اعتقاد داره به یک سیستم اسلامی باید سر کار بیاد.
This was a program that was broadcasted on TV nationally and everything, and it's a very long speech. Actually, it's documented. It's titled "Funtua Declaration."
این سخنرانی در واقع توسط رسانه‌ها پخش شده و حالا ثبت شده هست و آرشیو موجوده.
So while he was in the middle of delivering the speech, apparently, most of the people that were on the stage with him, the heads of the Muslim Student Society and everything, just pretty much left the hall. They were scared that maybe the police would come. I mean, this guy is trying to bring trouble to us. He's saying he no longer wants to follow the system or something. Yeah.
در وسط سخنرانی ایشون وقتی که ایشون داشته نطقش رو ایراد می‌کرده، تقریبا تمام کسانی که حالا بگیم سران این انجمن‌های اسلامی دانشجویان در سراسر کشور نیجریه بودن و روی سن حضور داشتن، کم کم سن رو ترک می‌کنن و میرن پایین، چون می‌ترسیدن که حالا چون شیخ داره با سیستم حاکم مخالفت می‌کنه، پلیس بیاد آنها رو دستگیر بکنه و اتفاقی براشون بیفته. Okay, what is the population of Nigeria and how many people are Muslims are?
Well, there's no actual statistics maybe for the past almost 7-8 years, but the estimation is about 200 million people. And
تخمین زده میشه 200 میلیون نفر. البته آمار رسمی طی 8 سال گذشته منتشر نشده.
Yeah, and there's about 120 to 30 million Muslims total. 120 to 30.
120 تا 130 میلیون مسلمان هستن. So the majority are Muslims.
Yes, about 60 or something percent.
How many are Shia?
The estimations that I've heard are about between 15 to 20 million.
15
to 20.
15 تا 20 میلیون تخمین زده میشه شیعه هستن.